I went on a dinner date with this guy as he asked me out and we had an excellent time. Since I am a bartender and always carry cash, I just paid for the bill when I excused myself to go to the bathroom. He asked why I took care of the tab when he found out, to which I replied, "Because you were awesome and I wanted to. Dinner can be on you on our second date. Okay?" Once we left and got back to his car, his vibe was kind of off. It was so weird and awkward. The guy has been kind of dry ever since. I confided in my male friend, and he suggested I may have made my date feel emasculated. How do you all feel about women taking the tab? Do you go 50-50? Do you always pay? Did he overreact? Or was I weird? And should I not have done that? Story 1. I'll be honest, if that happened to me, it would blow my mind. Honestly, here's his most likely thought process. You pay the bill and go to the bathroom. She really hates me and is trying to sneak out. You tell him he's awesome, and there is definitely going to be a second date. Wait, what? And just processing and trying to figure out what he did right for once. Story 2. I would have loved it, given you said you wanted a second date, assuming I was interested in you. If he is upset that you took the lead, he is being a bit too sensitive. Most men would appreciate a clear signal like that. Story 3. If I was the one who asked a woman out and picked the venue, I would feel obligated to pay, as it was my idea and my choice. Because you are awesome and I wanted to. Dinner can be on you on our second date. Okay? That's so far out of my expectations I would have no idea how to respond, but I would probably be in love afterwards too. Story 4. To offer another perspective, speaking as a gay man, when a guy insists on paying for dinner or whatever activity we are doing on the first date or two, unless it is something relatively cheap like ice cream, it often comes across as insincere and makes me feel uncomfortable, bringing out my more avoidant side. It gives me Mr. Nice Guy vibes, making me feel like they're a bit too keen before really getting to know me. It seems like they're trying to buy my affection, and I suddenly feel indebted to them, feeling like I owe them a second date without having the chance to decide if I want one. Even though I'm really frugal and love saving money, I can't think of a time when the other guy paid and it helped my attraction towards him. It has generally been a turnoff. On the flip side, when a guy just splits the bill, it maintains a bit of mystery and keeps me wondering if they're really into me or not, which in my experience is crucial for building attraction in the early stages. I'm not advocating for playing games, but a guy being authentic and sending a follow-up text telling me he had a good time and would like to see me again soon would go over better than him paying the whole bill and making me feel like I owe him another date. I can see how it may be similar with the guy in your case, especially with the added effect of traditional gender norms where the man is expected to pay. I do think there's certainly something to be said about masculine and feminine energy in attraction. That said, it may not be that he feels emasculated necessarily, but rather he's interpreted it as you coming on a bit too strong. You said that dinner could be on him on the second date, which is quite bold, assuming there will be another one. I can see parallels with my experience, and it may have made him feel like he owes you the second date without having the time to reflect on the first date and come to wanting a second one on his own accord. If I were you and you're still interested in him, I'd give it a few days to see if he reaches out, and if not, no harm in reaching out yourself to check in on him and tell him you'd like to see him again. But I'd leave the ball in his court after that if he is dismissive and keep looking elsewhere. Just my 2 cents. Story 5. Absolute overreaction. I would appreciate being told I was awesome and getting confirmation of a second date more than you paying. Plus, he can assert that he will pay for the second and third date if he was so inclined to pay for the first one. Story 6. Well, we share an account due to being married, so I feel nothing except for an eye roll when she says, "Don't worry, honey. I'll get it this time." If we were on our first date and she paid, followed by saying, "You can get the second date," then I'd probably have done more than just hold hands on our first date like we actually did. Story 7. My guess is he took it as you were not interested in a second date. If it bothers him, he is not the guy for you. You did nothing wrong and more women should be like you. Story 8. I think a lot of women pay when they don't like the person so they don't feel like they owe them something. I'd suggest that you ask him out on a date and pay for it rather than pay when he asks you out on a date. Either ask them out on the first date and pay, or if they ask you out on the first date, either split or let them pay, and then ask them out on the second date and pay for that. Story 9. Okay, so for me, not speaking for all men, If I asked a woman out whom I really wanted to potentially be with and wanted to take her out for a good time and treat her, and then she secretly paid, I would think she wasn't interested or the date went south. Even if she suggested I pay on the second date, it would be on me. I think the term emasculated is a bit of a stretch, but he could just feel weird because maybe he thinks you weren't completely interested. Story 10. You pay for food and I will get the drinks is always a welcome gesture, I find. It lets both parties feel like they are responsible for a large portion of the ticket and does not discourage anyone from feeling weird at the end. Story 11. I've had two separate experiences with it. The first was on a date with a girl and she offered to buy, so I figured why not and went with it. No girl had ever offered before, so it was really nice until it wasn't. Literally right after she swiped her card, she made some backhanded comment about her paying. The second was hanging out one evening with one of my female friends. She stole the bill away from me to pay for it. She is actually a nice person, but I just paid the next time. Story 12. It is a nice gesture, but I would not have liked it. I also would not be put out or turned off by it either. You would have a hard time pulling it again though. I guarantee that. Laugh out loud. Story 13. I just paid for the bill when I excused myself to go to the bathroom. This sounds like the kind of thing you would do if you didn't want a second date and felt guilty. Once we left and got back to his car, his vibe was kind of off. It was so weird and awkward. The guy has been kind of dry ever since. I confided in my male friend, and he suggested I may have made my date feel emasculated. He doesn't trust that you did that for the reason you say you did. Story 14. As a woman, usually guys say they like it when the girl pays. However, I've done that a few times, and in most of them, they lost interest right after. So I feel like it's confusing. My boyfriend loves it and doesn't care about it, and we usually split everything nowadays and occasionally treat each other. But that was not my experience with other guys, so it depends, I believe. Story 15. You're awesome. Original poster. I'm a guy, and all these rules for dating I find exhausting. Be yourself, and if he can't handle you, he isn't the right dude. Period. Story 16. This whole emasculation myth needs to die. Like seriously, there are a billion possible explanations, and that is never anywhere on the list of feasible explanations. 50-50 split or just pay for your own food is always a solid, safe option. Story 17. Many guys would feel emasculated because it feels like you took charge and did what is customarily something a man does. By the way, real life is different from Reddit. Many here will say, "Oh my gosh, I would love that." But in real life, you see what happens. Take it with a grain of salt. Story 18. Emasculation is not the problem for men who are actively trying to read signals during dating and respond accordingly. The issue is there are two ways your action sent an "I'm not interested in you" signal, and that's exactly what he probably read. We learned that if a woman does something overtly and obviously emasculating in our faces, it is a signal for "I'm not thinking of you that way," though it could also be a test, an annoying one that would make you the yellow flag. There is also the issue of a pattern that most guys know. When a woman is clear or assertive about splitting or paying her portion, especially on dates 2 to 4, she most likely intends on that being her last date with you. If I'm on a second or third date and she did exactly what you did, I would take it as a strong signal you don't intend on seeing me again. Even if you later say something generic like, "I had a great time," or give a non-specific desire to meet up again, the no signal is stronger without substantial initiation or follow-through on her side. It's best to avoid paying like that for a guy ever again unless you're not interested in him. If you want to pay for him, it's better to offer and or discuss it and give a reason why you're wanting to pay for him. Story 19. Personally, I love it. I usually say something to the effect of, "I'll get it next time." I try to convey gratitude and also the possibility for future encounters. I don't mind paying, but also I don't mind having someone take care of the tab. If he is feeling emasculated by you picking up the bill, that, to me, might indicate he is very sensitive about these things and might be conservative. Is that the kind of guy you want? Story 20. I confided in my male friend, and he suggested I may have made my date feel emasculated. This is pretty crazy to me. If somebody paying the bill, of all things, makes him feel emasculated, then that would be a big red flag. Story 21. How do you feel when a woman pays for the tab? Good. Since I am a bartender and always carry cash, I just paid for the bill when I excused myself to go to the bathroom. Probably better to discuss this beforehand, but your response was on point, so I think you were good. I would take the second date myself. Story 22. I would be a little weirded out and wonder why you really did it, but not enough to act weird towards you. It's just a bit annoying because I'm gonna feel like I owe you until I can pay it back now. Story 23. You did absolutely nothing wrong. In fact, I wouldn't be able to wipe the smile off my face if a date paid and hit me with that line. Please, and I mean please, don't let this discourage you. You don't know how happy an action like that will make a decent guy. Ignore any comments saying that men do not enjoy it when women take the lead. That's often more of an indicator that the individual has underlying insecurities rather than a rule that should be applied to people in the real world. Story 24. That would have been an absolute second date for me. On behalf of that guy, thanks. And I have a great place in mind for the next dinner. You don't even have to think about it. Just be ready. Freddie. Some guys don't know how to handle stuff. Story 25. It may have been the way you paid without him being a part of it. I've had men get bothered when I pay. They feel judged by the server, staff, and anyone else who sees sometimes, or at least some told me. I pay often and have encountered all different responses. Story 26. I replied, because you are awesome and I wanted to. Dinner can be on you on our second date. Okay? I assume from this the date went well and you were not opposed to a second date, which is a great sign for him. He suggested I may have made my date feel emasculated. If he is feeling emasculated by you, a relative stranger, footing the bill on a first date, what else may he think about relationship-wise that could be a red flag that you do not see or he hid? Story 27. I think it's honestly a good vetting system for you. I would feel treated if a woman paid for the meal without my knowledge. Honestly, you handled it perfectly. If he is that insecure, just do not bother. We, as people, have enough insecurities to deal with in a relationship. Why would you want to throw a baseless one like that into the mix? Story 28. I would have loved it. You seem like a considerate person to date. Keep up what you are doing. Totally agree with I'll do this date, you do the next. Story 29. I'll deal with your situation first. The man asked you out and you both had a great time, so his self-confidence was up and he was feeling good. When you pay without talking with him about it on your way to the bathroom, it can make him feel like you just don't consider his opinion about the matter as important, which can be a jarring feeling for him at the time. Now for the rest of the questions. I do not mind a woman paying the bill on a date, just as long as we can talk about it honestly. If I ask a woman out, I plan to pay for the date at the start. If we're having a good time, I bring up the idea of splitting the bill, and depending on how that conversation goes, I consider if I would feel okay with that. He didn't overreact. It was most likely confusing to him. It's only weird that you didn't think he may want to pay the bill. He asked you out or bring up the idea of splitting the bill. Story 30. For me, if it was a date I asked the girl on, I would probably feel a bit unsure. If it was a girl I had been dating for a while or was in a relationship with, I would be fine with it. Story 31. Honestly, as a woman, I wouldn't like this on a date, meaning the guy was the one doing it. You didn't just pay for dinner, you went behind your date's back. Financial transparency is very important to me in a future partner. This gives me sneaky red flags on the first date. Obviously, if this is years down the road of a relationship, I feel different. I think it's fair to let the bill come to the table. If you want to pay, that's the time to say, my treat, you can cover dinner next time. Story 32. I am a grown 2-meter man and love it when my girlfriend pays for dinner. Feels like the princess I am deep down. And just one compliment and I would melt down. Big green flag. Story 33. Different strokes for different folks. Some guys seem very attached to the male role even if it isn't fulfilling. What you did was very kind and makes you stand out. I would be talking to my guy friends in shock that a woman was actually that appreciative and trying to line up my next date with her. I think some guys don't take it well because it's all they are aware they have to give, despite that not being true. Story 34. Some guys are really funny about it. It's rooted in the last generation's way of doing things. If it were me, I'd be pleased, but I would definitely be looking to repay the favor by paying for the next date like you suggested. If this happened, I would get a sense that you see us as equals, and I'm all for that. Story 35. Please, we're not living in the Stone Age anymore. If anything, it's refreshing when a woman takes charge and picks up the tab. It's a sign of independence and confidence, and those are attractive qualities in anyone. Story 36. Girl, I have done the same thing before. The man acted odd too, like we are both adults. Just get the bill next time, no? And they say we are complicated, shaking my head. Story 37. This is typically a huge green flag. I am wondering if maybe the guy is a little self-conscious about his financial situation, thinks you picked up on it, and assumed he needs help paying for dates. Story 38. It looks like I may be in the minority here, but this is one of the worst things you could have done. Even men will sit here and tell you, "Oh no, we love this." That's a green flag, when subconsciously it will throw off their masculine energy. I literally wrote a paper on this subject. It's very interesting. Men need to feel needed. They like to offer you something as a show of their affection, especially on the first date. It all has to do with our nature as men and women. As a woman, I loved paying for the first date. They almost never turned into second dates, partly because I was too much in my masculine energy. Now, I don't even reach for my purse. I've had much better outcomes. Everyone is saying he didn't think he'd get a second date. That's not true. You literally told him he would. He simply wanted to cover your bill. I'm with a guy now who would actually be insulted if I even looked at the price. He takes pride, joy, and pleasure in paying, and I've never been able to bask in my feminine energy more. I fear I'll probably be downvoted, but oh well. I'm telling you it's true.